Hi guys, how you doing? It's Dom here from Sumerian. My first interview back for a while with Sara from Youth Code. Just about to release yours with Malice. We go deep into musical inspirations and so much more in this interview. So I wanted to bring it to you. I'm really proud of it. And yeah, thank you so much for your support of the channel. Thank you so much for supporting what we do. Really appreciate it. Go and support Youth Code. Go and listen to them. Incredible, intense, and beautiful stuff. All right, guys, take it easy. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Cool. Well, Sara, it is a pleasure to sit with you a few years removed from the last time we spoke. I'm particularly curious because you took like a gap away
This has
to,
been like spoken about quite a bit.
yeah,
This has been something that a lot of people have said, and I think it's interesting to note that like the last record that we did was with King Yosef, and it was an early pandemic
yeah,
record.
yeah,
So I don't, yeah, we spoke around that
yeah,
time. It's interesting to me that people call it a gap when I think the entire world was on pause.
true. Very good
So
point.
it's like something where people go, "You guys have been away for so long. Like what why now?" And it's interesting to me because I feel like, well, it hasn't been that long. The last time we put out something was 4 years ago. By the standards of a lot of bands, you don't like 4 years really not that long of an amount of
That's
time.
a good point.
If the stretches between the last time we did our own record and this record, without counting the King Yosef record in the middle, sure, it's been 9 years. However, we toured from 2016 up until 2020. Like we did
Yeah,
tours with Refuse, Chelsea Wolf, Baroness. We did so many, we put in so much work in
yeah,
between. And then the whole world shut down. So then it was like, okay, well, we still want to get to work on stuff. So
yeah,
we did the record with King Yosef. But for some reason, like I'm noticing this theme that a lot of people go, well, you took a long break. But it's like everybody took a long
yeah,
break. Like
yeah,
I think it's cool if you were able to like run and gun from like when that they start lifting the bans, the world starts turning back to like whatever the fuck normal is now at this point in time. Like it's cool if you had like your gun loaded and you were ready to fire and like go. But for us, it was like I had to reformat my entire life,
hmm,
as somebody that has only toured as like a main job
hmm,
since I was 17. Every job that I had, I would be there for like, oh, I can stick around and work at, I worked at the record store, I think probably a total of 6 months off and on between touring with like High on Fire, or touring with different bands,
yeah,
whatever. So for me, when nobody could tour, nobody could do anything, I sat there and was just like, what the fuck am I doing?
yeah,
I can't, all the work that I've done from when I was 17 years old to like at that point in time I was 35. I can't claim benefits. Like I can't do anything. Like
mm,
I've been kind of just going by the seat of my pants my entire life.
yeah,
So in ways, like Youth Code didn't really take that long of a break, but it was like the record came out in what, 2021?
mm,
We started recording it 2020, and you couldn't really start doing tours until 2022.
yeah,
So now we're at 2025. And then by when people were doing tours, everybody was like waiting. Like it felt like what is it? Like almost like a bull right about to go to the rodeo. Like you're
yeah,
waiting behind the store. The gate lifts,
yeah,
boom.
you're
Every
out.
single artist was like, we're doing this room. We're doing this room. Oh, that room is filled because a band bigger than us couldn't do their big spot because someone bigger than them did it. Okay, we'll settle. We'll do small clubs. Like it was so
Mm,
saturated. Where am I to like book a tour on a record that had already come out 2 years prior and be
hmm,
like, oh, I'm ready to show this to the world now?
yeah, yeah, good
So
point.
we did little dates. Like
Mm,
we did Hellfest with Nine Inch Nails. We did shows with My Chemical Romance.
yeah,
We did festivals here in LA. We did shows with Kite in Sweden. Like we had been active the whole time. I think that the world changed though to a way where if you're not, everyone was stuck at home and it's like, I'm online. Check me out. I'm still alive. Like I'm still
Yeah,
doing things. I'm still
yeah,
active. Check me out. I'm doing stuff. And we never adjusted to that. Like, hey, everyone, we're here. We're a band. We're talking all the time to you. Like we were just like, okay, we'll come back when we feel like coming back. And then that's what we've done, you know?
yeah, yeah. And there was you were remixing and stuff, and I know you were involved with a lot of other things during that time too. So I think kind of the first part of my question was the break, but then the second part of it was like you mentioned reevaluating stuff. You commented before we started on, some changes you've made to your life and, therapy, things like that. How would you say you've changed since the very first youth code stuff? So back in like 2012, when you guys started out releasing that first self-titled record, to where you are now, having had the break, having done that relentless touring, because if you go on Reddit and people have documented just how much you were touring with just how many bands across different genres. So it's well documented how much you've worked at this for so long. So how would you say, Sarah, you've changed from that time, being a bit younger, having that experience, to doing side projects, to
Mm-hmm.
now, now being here about to release this record with Sumerian, different level of support as well. So I guess your life has changed as the music industry's changed. So yeah, where are you now compared to where you were in 2012, 2013?
It's interesting because I was actually just talking about this with my therapist.
Mm,
The where am I personally? I would say that like the goalpost as you get older constantly pushes forward, and I am continuously hungry and searching to go even beyond like that goalpost at all points in time. So if I think back to like 2011 when Ryan and I first started
mhm,
doing youth code, I was so nervous. I was
mm,
like not the person that I was, kind of putting myself into this position. The goalpost was like really close to home. It was like, okay, branch out from just being who you are to who you are as like a singer, a performer. Like I was not a singer.
mhm,
So that finding my voice, finding how I felt confident,
mm,
finding ways that I was like, okay, if I listen to the first demo tape that we did, which I think came out in 2011, maybe it
mm,
came out in 2012, when I listened to the voice of the girl that was on that tape, as opposed to listening to the voice of the girl who's singing, I mean, I guess woman at this point in time, like yours with Malice, they're two completely different
mm,
tones, timbres, delivery, cadence. The first stuff, I was like so nervous that I feel like I buried a lot of my vocal and like effects, like weird phase. I
mm,
buried a lot of it in the first record, and now I feel very confident with like what I've been able to bring to the table. I've learned and put myself in this position where now it's like I can command a room.
mm.
It doesn't matter how big or small, I'm there to own it. And I feel like that's maybe the biggest difference is just no, like being more and more sure of yourself as an artist. I think these things like wax and wane, of course, like sometimes you're sitting there going, what the fuck am I doing? And sometimes you're like, yeah, I'm fucking killing it.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
think that it's just a better level of confidence and a better level of feeling like we're on the right path at all points in time, and
yeah,
like just develop like Ryan's songwriting from when we had two electrobes and a microchord to now we have like a fucking massive, not massive, like I don't know,
mm,
we have a studio with a bunch of synthesizers that we've like collected and bought for years and years and years.
mm.
His songwriting has shifted, my perspective on the world has shifted. Like it just gets it grows with time.
Mm, mm. Yeah, yeah. When you say your perspective on the world has shifted, is that reflected in? I mean, it's a wider question outside of the EP, but when you say that, what do you mean? Do you mean you've become? If I was to make an assumption, I'd be like, have you become frustrated with the world? In what
Even
ways?
more so every single day.
Right.
I couldn't imagine when Youth Code started that we would be in the place that we're at in society.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
like I never in my life imagined that, like, you know, it's like in positive and negative ways too. It's like, you know, from the time that Youth Code first started, even something as simple as like veganism, right? Like I'm somebody that I've been vegan for 20 something years. So 2012, I was totally fine with just eating a tofu scramble with vegetables. Now they have fuck off full fake eggs that like are made with like gelatin and like, or not gelatin, like this like weird fake yolk in it and stuff. Like that everything has progressed. And I think my view on the world, some of it is positive, but there's a lot of it where the frustrating part of things, like, did I think that I would live in a country that was using social media to showcase that they were pushing out immigrants? This is a country that is found, like, immigration is absolutely key. The people that are in charge, like, for some reason of this cognitive dissonance, their relatives were also immigrants to this land. And now we're pushing out people that are native to this land. Yep. Like, it's fucked up, dude. Like, it is fucked up. Yep. Like, so yeah, the world view in my eyes, you know, things that I was like asking, you know, not in a way where, you know, when we did A Place to Stand, the last track on that is just sort of like a manifesto of like, you know, be a better person, like stop hating people for like whatever. Did I think that the world would be this full of vitriol and hate and disgust? Like, you know, that came out in 2014. So 11 years later, it would be as bad as it is? Absolutely not. Like I could have never in my wildest dreams imagined it to be as fucking horrible as it is right now. So, you know, there's ways in which with like my outlook as I've gotten older, there's certain things that I look on positively, and there's a lot of stuff that I look at negatively.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a much wider conversation, Sarah, about this. Now, I definitely want to pick your brains at some point, maybe if we've got some more time in a little bit, but because I think that, again, that's a very wide conversation. In terms of what you're talking about on yours with Malice, I remember like when I heard No Consequence, it was like straight out of the gate. It was like, man, Youth Code are back. And it felt like, I know you talked about in the press release, you felt more confident in your vocal. You talked about a little bit off record today as well. It feels like just a much more, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the best. It was like boom, do you know what I mean? It was like a slap in the face, like a punch in the face through my speakers, you know, when you know those first vocal lines and the beats, you know, when you were pulling these tracks together, and I want you to go into a little bit of detail into some of your favorites. What was the manifesto this time around? Was it to me,
I mean, I had dealt with a lot of personal change.
Right.
Like I had gone through like almost a personal metamorphosis of like shedding things that didn't serve me in my life, like people, like just different things. And I feel like when I was writing this, I was in the middle of like when I was really like solidifying the lyrics, because these songs like they've morphed, you know, you know, Ryan is constantly writing. So some of this stuff, it like stems from ideas that we had, like a 16 bar that we sort of like touched on in like 2018 and then put to the side and then like elevated on that. But I don't get a chance I don't write lyrics until everything is fully formed and I have like a map of where I can put my voice, which is probably not always the easiest for Ryan because it puts a lot of stuff on his shoulders. However, like that's the best way for me to be able to like figure out where I'm going with stuff. I think a lot of this record, you know, that opening line on No Consequences, come get it back if you can take it, you know, like fuck out of here, you know, like there's no doubting, like I'm coming in hot.
Yeah.
And that's just that's the way it's going to be. I've been sitting here stewing for a minute. I've been letting everybody play. I'm coming back fucking hot. And
yeah.
that's, a lot of it is that,
Yeah, it just felt really powerful. And I mean, there's a couple of tracks that people haven't heard yet. Obviously, the EP comes out, sorry, it comes out in a few days for
Yeah.
everyone to hear. When you were pulling together Wishing Well, I mean, you mentioned obviously, I know you can't speak for Ryan, but when you were pulling together Wishing Well, and also, Search, those tracks, but particularly Wishing Well, what can you explain lyrically where you were at? Because for me, listening back, I was like, again, I'm not going to say accessible, but
Mhm.
it just there's elements of this that I think are relatable to people now in terms of the anger, in terms of the melody, I think is the right term. So when you were pulling together Wishing Well, can you tell me a little bit more about that track, please?
I mean, like the entire concept of that song, I, you know, basically like I thought about the concept behind tossing coins into a wishing well, essentially, and how it's like this interesting superstition of like, you know, fuck, if I throw this coin into this thing, maybe my luck will change. And that's like the basis of the whole song. And I think I was just thinking about that ritual of like, maybe things will change.
Mm,
Like
mm.
there's always a possibility, but you're putting so much pressure on this like one little point, like this little coin, this tiny coin toss, this insignificant movement is something that could change the rest of your life forever,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah,
And I feel like, with that song, it was I was trying to, as I've gotten more confident, as I've tried out new things, I fucking wish I sounded like Christina Aguilera. You know what I mean? If I was Lady Gaga, dude, my life would be fucking sick. Like, can you imagine? I would sing at everyone. Someone would be like, I'd be at the bar, taking an order. I'd be like, what would you like? Like if I had those pipes, I'd fucking use them, but I don't. And so I'm trying as hard as possible to at least figure out where I am and what my capability is. And then, who knows if it's anything like how it's been going in my life, we get to one point and then we'll push the goalpost and try to do something else. It's
yeah.
constantly about challenging yourself and trying to move even further from where you've set it up the last time.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. And I just want to say, I've met Stinker. I feel like you have a pretty good life on the face of it from what I've experienced in my
It's
brief
pretty, yeah,
time.
it's a
Looks
pretty
pretty
decent.
looks pretty cool. But yeah, I see what you're saying for sure. Um, on that note, then, because I do want to touch on definitions of success. We talked about this a little, a few years back when obviously things looked a lot differently, and you were working on that collab record. But you've been on, you've done side projects successfully. You've toured with some of the biggest bands in the world, um, alongside touring around the world with this project with your family effectively. So
Mm-hmm.
what has your definition of success changed? You've been around other bands, you've lived that life. Does your definition of success change and evolve? Again, Sarah 2012,
Absolutely,
2013.
absolutely,
Right,
absolutely.
right.
Like when you're first starting a band, you're happy that any one person is purchasing a t-shirt or a record. You know what I mean? Like when we first started, we like we didn't have merchandise. We didn't make our first shirt was like just the like I think the first shirt was actually a picture of like bloody knuckles and it said strict BPM. And it was just that shirt. I think we printed 30 of them. And that was like on a whim. And all of those sold out. And all the demo tapes sold out. Like all this stuff like started happening. That was like, holy shit, this is moving forward. And then of course you tour with bands where like, I haven't even hit close to my marker of what I think I want to achieve in my life.
Mm.
And I haven't even cracked the surface of what I want to achieve in my life. But if you're talking about what we do now or how we live now, as opposed to how we lived when we were Ryan when we started Youth Code, Ryan and I hadn't even been a couple for a year. We hadn't even been together for a year.
Mm.
And we were living in a small apartment and figuring out we needed to move from that apartment, figuring out how to make ends meet to be able to even get rent. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so now, we have the ability to live in a place that we love. We have like I've still never gotten a driver's license, but that's fine. We have like modes of transportation, like it's getting to where I want to be, but
Right.
like where I would, but I'm nowhere near, Ryan and I still work jobs.
Yeah.
Like I would love to be able to have what I do creatively be able to be the thing that makes sure that I have a roof over my head.
Mm,
I would
mm,
love for what I do creatively to be able to make bigger impacts on society. I'd love to like donate to charities without like worrying that my donation is like not big enough to make any sort of significant impact, and also be able to like take care of my bills. I want to utilize what we do
yeah.
as a way to make an impact on the world and also be able to live a decent life from it,
Yeah. Of course. Of course. So,
That's
yeah. No. So is that when you talk about where you want to be? Is that all that is not that is that not is that all that you want to do? But like, is that where you want to get to? Is that the highest level, full time music? Being able to donate to charity, as you just said there, I'm just using your examples. What is that?
I'm sure the
That
goalpost, I don't even know what the highest level of it is,
mm,
right? Like what
mm,
is the highest level? Like I think the highest level to me is, can I still be a good person? Can I
mm.
still be like a relatively normal person? I have friends that do extremely well musically that don't have the ability to go out and do things normally, because then there's another side of it that's like weird, and like parasocial relationships that people feel like they have with people that they don't know.
Yep.
I don't know I think in an ideal world, I would be able to help anyone that needed help. Like we're
Mm,
talking if I had fucking access to like fucking Jeff Bezos money or something like that, right? Like I would love
yeah.
to be able to help anyone that needed help. I would love to be able to like set my friends up that are struggling with like, hey, here's this opportunity. I just want to be a good person. And
Yeah.
like, no matter what my financial level is, I think that my ultimate point of success is if I can be a good person, that's really what matters,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
have.
sure, like
Go on. No, no, go on.
I was gonna say, like, it would be cool if music is what could float that, as
Yeah.
like a idea of success. But I think that I've hit a very good place where, like, even if music isn't what necessarily pays all of my bills at this point in time, I can still help the people that I love,
Yeah.
and I can still, I have a roof over my head. I'm fine. I can eat fake eggs whenever I want. Like, I'm doing okay.
Absolutely. And I mean, I know we've got a record to promote, and I'll do that in the wind up questions. I know we've talked a little bit about the songs, but I have to ask now, just because it's gonna kill me if I don't ask you. Not quite. That's probably a bit of hyperbole, but what do you think a good person means? What's a good person? How do you define that?
A person that lives with compassion and empathy, and I guess somebody who puts their money where their mouth is in terms of like being able to, like, if someone calls me and says, hey, I need a second of your time right now, good is subjective, right? Like
Yeah.
it is subjective. But ultimately, if I live within my moral code of being able to be helpful to people and uh, I don't know, dude. Like, yeah, I guess like a good person is really somebody who like stands for things that are right. Like, I want people to have bodily autonomy. I want
Yeah.
people to have like everything they want. If I can help, that's
Yeah.
what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you feel confident? It feels like you feel that in yourself, which I think is I don't want to make an assumption, but what you've just mentioned, like you it feels like you're capable of doing that for people that you love.
People I love, I treat like I put everybody on a pedestal above me. Are you kidding? Like,
Right,
you
right.
need like I don't even really have to like love you. If like you were to call me and be like, you know what? I just want to chit chat. I'm a yapper. Like
Right. Well,
I'll chat. I'll take it up.
I
I'll fucking
I
I'll yarn
appreciate
with
that.
anyone all day.
I appreciate it. I think that's it's just nice to hear, because one of the things that I know that you probably hear quite a lot in your world, but also in my world, is that people, they define what they want to be as a good person, but they don't see it in themselves. So that's why the reason why I asked you was because I was like, it's nice to know that you see those qualities in yourself, because a lot of people can't allow themselves to be like, yeah, I'm doing pretty
Yeah,
well.
I mean,
Do you
being a
know?
human is a flawed experience,
Yeah.
right? And I'll make mistakes. I've made mistakes.
Mm,
I've done things that probably aren't kind. I've
mm,
probably said things even in passing that I don't think about. I probably said something that fucking wrecked someone's whole day. But the point of life is to consistently be learning and to be better,
mm.
and to just continuously. So yeah, I'm not fucking perfect, but am I somebody that wants to like help people and be a positive person that like promotes like love and good well-being? Yeah, that's what I want to do.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I think that's a powerful statement, you know. We talk about the songs being a powerful statement, but I just think it's nice to hear, you say that, because clearly it's very, very important to you. Right. Record promotion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So obviously you've got a few tour dates coming up in the States. I know you've been in Europe. People love you in Europe and the UK as well. Big following there. Across the board. You've been touring for many, many years. Is there anything? I'm not going to use the word gap again, because we know we've covered that. Is there anything that you've missed about doing it live? I saw somebody had filmed you guys playing most recently, I think, in Berlin, and just a very intense live show, which is how I know you to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Raw, that raw energy is there and has always been. Is there anything you missed about what I would assume is a cathartic process of playing live? And of course, there's a myriad of complications. You can get to a venue, as you've said, and play with tiny speakers. Probably not so much nowadays, but what have you missed and not missed about playing live?
I miss interaction.
Mm,
Like I miss, you know, um, a woman came up to me when we played at Moth Club in London,
mm,
and she said, "Hey, can I have a photo with you?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." She
mm,
was nervous, and
mm,
I was like, "Oh, you don't have to be nervous. Like we're good. We're
mm.
like two people. We're talking.
Yeah, yeah,
We're interacting. We're two human beings talking to each
yeah,
other."
yeah.
And what she had told me is the last time that she had seen us was before she had transitioned.
Right, right.
And she didn't feel like she loved our band so much, but it was like so sad for her to look at this photo because it was a photo of a show that she didn't feel comfortable in. And so she
Mm,
was so excited to get this photo with us now that she's confident with herself. And she expressed to me how much our music had helped her find confidence in making this really big life choice for
mm,
herself and being the person that she's meant to be. And that to me, thinking that anything that I wrote had a positive or helpful impact on somebody that I'm lucky that we got to meet. I'm lucky that we got to speak and talk and interact. But I don't know that I would have ever assumed that we were going to meet at
mm,
any point in her life.
mm,
So the fact that I was able to meet this woman and like just hear her story,
mm.
like I feel fucking lucky. I feel super lucky that anything that's come out of our brains has helped anyone.
Yeah, yeah.
When I meet different people that are like, how do you express yourself in this way? Like, how do you utilize your voice like this? Like, I wish I could. My response is always, you can. You can do whatever the fuck you want to do.
Mm,
And I'm living proof of that.
mm.
Like, I missed being able to talk to people that I didn't know and to like, I don't know, like be someone that they enjoyed talking to, an
Yeah.
experience for them.
Yeah, it's a fascinating point you make, isn't it? Because like there's people you're sitting there going, "Oh, well, if I had Christina Aguilera's vocals, my life would be different." But there's probably people out there going, "Fucking hell, if I could sing like Sarah, my life would be, better." You know what I mean? It's a weird
They
layer.
can.
Yeah, there's layers to it, though, isn't there? And I always find that interesting. One of the questions I've got before we do the kind of summary stuff, the press bollocks, is I'm interested in your thoughts on This has gets a different response from different people. Industrial music. Now, bear with me on this one. So, you kind of straddle that, because of your backgrounds between like punk and industrial. You have the EBM influence, which I think it's great to see that you're mixing those genres so well. I think like Health and Street Sex and Machine Girl have all kind of had moments with with the Flenter's success, all kind of had moments in the sun. And I think with my perception is that with Sumerian support, you kind of breaking into the mainstream a little more. And I think you guys have done that with some of the tours you've been on. Is that how you feel? Do you feel like modern industrial is having a resurgence, or is that like, am I off base on that one? Because go
I
on.
don't think you're off base on it, but I think that, like, interestingly enough, like, I have like very complicated feelings about a lot of this. I have
That's
very complicated feelings about it because
that's why I wanted to ask.
when, yeah, like as far as like my scope and perspective was when Youth Code started, there wasn't the industrial scene was like kind of it was a I never saw another person in a skinny puppy shirt just randomly. You know what I mean? I never saw somebody in a Frontline Assembly t-shirt. They were like unicorns. If you see them, you can talk to them about music and like, whoa, this is cool. About some like weird cutty stuff, You'll see people in like Nine Inch Nails t-shirts, but they're a massive band. If we're talking about like really kind of sort of underground industrial, it was not necessarily like you would see a Godflesh shirt at a metal show, which is cool. I fucking love Godflesh. But as far as it being a cohesive scene where these bands were like playing, massive venues and stuff, that wasn't fucking happening, And so when I think my feelings on industrial are somewhat complicated because I felt like we were a minister of a message to a lot of people. Like, this is not dead, Now I see, there was like a fucking collection at Target that was like, unlock your inner Gothic side with our Gothic decor at Target. I think about that, and then I think about how that didn't exist when Youth Code started, So there's these ways in which I felt like a minister for so fucking long, and I've watched people go towards more of an industrial side of things, and I've watched the current shift in so many different ways, and it be something that like, when we were first starting, I would go to like goth clubs and there weren't that many people there. And now I feel like it's being referenced on daytime television, So I think in ways, yeah, the industrial scene, obviously the goth scene, these things, they're having a resurgence, but in like true fashion of just my kind of rebellious spirit, I guess. Now I find myself kind of like looking at things that have nothing to do with industrial, like as an influence, really. Like, of course, like I love electronic music. Like, I fucking love electronic music. When I'm listening to like song structure and stuff, I'm not listening to like the old industrial greats. Like, I'm listening to like I listen to like a lot of drum and bass right now. I listen to like Pendulum, like I'm listening to like fucking old Metalheads record stuff. Like I'm kind of going at it of like, when we started, it wasn't cool. And then we helped to like kind of breathe new life into it. And now that there's life in it and it can stand up on its own, I'm kind of looking to like other things to twist the take on what is commonly known as industrial. Like I want it to morph all the time. I want, Bowie didn't just make Ziggy Stardust 65 times over, and I feel the same,
Yeah.
Nine Inch Nails didn't make Pretty Hate Machine 20 times over.
No.
Think about listening to With Teeth and then think about listening to Pretty Hate Machine. They're two fucking completely different bands. So I feel like, yeah, industrial is having its moment, but I kind of and not to shit on it or shun it because I obviously fucking love it,
Mm.
but I feel like I'm just pushing the goalpost at all points in time in life.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think there'll be a point where, and I just to add to that, there's a lot of talk today about pushing goalposts, which I think is wonderful because it means that you are constantly evolving and um, constantly kind of creating. I think it's a great thing. Do you think there'll ever be a point where, and this is probably a dangerous question to ask an artist and a creative person, but like, do you think there'll ever be a point where you're just like happy? Does that make sense? Like you
Well,
where you
happy. I'm in therapy, so maybe
well
one day, but
yeah. Well, I mean, I
no,
think
I'm talking about you're talking
yeah.
about like satisfied with your creative output
Yeah,
and
like
like
yeah,
you're
yeah.
you're
The
fine.
people hate this term, but I think it's quite interesting. Legacy, I guess. It's kind of it makes people squirm. Some people find it okay. Like legacy, I guess. Looking back and going, yeah, I'm good with that. I am happy with my creative output.
Dom, I'll tell you something right now.
Yeah.
If this band stopped right now, I would still be just as fucking proud and so confident about the impact, whether people want to acknowledge it or not, that
Mm,
we made on society. I fucking know that with my heart of hearts. If it stopped tomorrow, if there was a reason that we couldn't create,
mm.
I'm fine with it. But so long as I have the ability to create, I would like for us to push the goalpost further.
Yeah.
But if someone said, hey, you're done, I
Mm,
would go, okay, cool. Like I did what I came to do. And then
mm,
there's another avenue of my life that I need to like pivot towards or put, I'm not fucking in my 20s or 30s anymore. I'm
mm,
40 years old. Like
mm,
at a certain point in time, is it going to be tiresome for me to be angry all the time? Sure. Like, I mean, is it going to be tiresome for me to sing? Maybe sure. Like I don't
mm,
know what that looks like in the future. And so if I can move every day with just being proud of what we've done
mm.
and what impact we've made, I've lived a good life.
Yeah.
Industrial music in the year 2012 is not supposed to be, if you look back and you think about what it was when we first started,
Hmm.
why the fuck did two people from Los Angeles get to go to Russia, get to go to like all over the fucking world, Australia, Japan? Why did I get to do that? Like it obviously was something that we did that was impactful. And so with that, I've seen so much more of the world than like most people. And it's all through creativity. I'm absolutely over the moon fucking proud of it. If
Hell
I
yeah,
had to
dude.
fucking stop, it would be fine, you know?
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. That's awesome. Again, that and all power to you as you release this music, and I was so happy to see it get released and for you to have that major support from
This is
Sumerian.
just the beginning.
Yeah,
This is just the beginning. Like
yeah.
are fucking, we are absolutely, I think in a weird way, like it's fun to kind of sit back, when people talk about the break or whatever,
Mm,
like the time lapse,
mm,
it's been fun to watch people try to play catch up to something that we've been doing for
mm.
so long. And now that they feel like they've caught up, we're already somewhere
Yeah,
else.
yeah,
So
yeah.
this is like really truly just the beginning of like what we're doing. And so long as I'm allowed and so long as there are people, like it is fucking awesome that we have Sumerian on our side. Absolutely. But when we didn't have labels on our side, we still were creative.
Still doing it. Yeah.
We still, we got the cover of Revolver and we didn't even have a label or a release when we got the cover of Revolver. Our
Mm.
band is always just Ryan and I at our discretion when we want to do things. And like if the world is paying attention, of course I'm stoked. If the world's not paying attention, I'm still stoked because I've been able to do such amazing things in life.
100%, and 100%. And I think that's a really good. Again, I could sit and talk to you for hours. We'll maybe do this in future parts because it's an absolute pleasure to sit with you and talk about what you're doing and what you have done. And I do think it is a testament to the effort both you. I know Ryan's not there, but just the effort that you've put in. So well done. And I
Thank
mean
you
that
very
not
much.
not in a as a long time listener, and also just because you're talking about going to Russia and these experiences you shared off record with Carl, as funny as they were, these things don't just happen to anybody. It happens because you put the effort in, and you've got life no one can ever take that away from you, man. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful thing, you know.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Well, to wind up then, it's the plugging bit. Is there anything? Have I done my job today, Sarah? Is there anything that I've missed today that you want to plug and promote before we finish?
I think you've done your job, honestly. If we're going into like I'm the supervisor now on this situation, I think you've
There
done a
you go.
great job today.
There you go.
I think that, of course, like listen to the record. If you like it, come to a show. Like, say
Mm,
what's up. If you happen to be in Los Angeles and I'm at work and you like what we do, or if Ryan's at work and you like what we do, just say what's up. Just be a normal human being. Like, just fucking, like, this all continues because people are able to communicate.
mm.
And so if you like what we do, cool. But, like, I'm not going to force anyone to do anything. If you don't like what we do, sick. I'm sorry I can't be Christina Aguilera. But, like, whatever. The fact that people are out in the world supporting things that are creative is fucking awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a beautiful, beautiful message. And just gonna squeeze this one in to get philosophical before we finish up. What would you tell? And this is a cliche question, but I think it's interesting to ask again, as somebody that maybe grew up on certain bands and as certain artists, listening to certain sounds and then getting to do all these things. What would you tell like your younger self now, like whether it's a personal thing or related to music? What would you say if you were sat opposite younger Sarah in terms of, perhaps things you thought about yourself then to where you are at this point?
It's worth it to be alive, you
Cool.
know?
Cool.
It's worth it to be alive. I think that, like, you know, uh, everybody struggles, right? Like, everybody deals with like all their different things at every point in time.
Mm,
But, like, if you can just kind of get out of your head for a little bit and know that the road is not even, you're going to see parts of the road in the future that the bricks haven't even been put down for the
mm.
road yet.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that it's important to stay alive, and it's important to try to just be the best version of yourself you can and never stop working on yourself. And I think I would just, I like younger Sarah reckless, like kind
Mm.
of like a wild child. And it's okay. It formulated the Sarah of today. But
Mm.
like, I just, you know, to try to like keep your eye on the prize and keep moving forward.
100%. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Sarah. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to chatting to you again.
Dom, you can call me anytime you want.